My next guest tonight, joining me on Punky's mixtape, hailing out of Napanee, Ontario. I'd like everybody to welcome to the show Danny Addicted and Master Nate of Sofa King Addicted. How are we doing?
We're great, I think we can say.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having us, man. It's cool.
Words right out of my mouth, man. Thanks a lot.
Dude, not a problem at all. Not a problem at all. Try to, bring as many different eclectic artists, but we always have a special place in our heart for punk rock. So, do us a favor, introduce yourselves and tell us what you do in the band.
Go ahead.
I'm Master Nate. I play guitar and sing, and
I'm Danny Addicted. I drink a lot of beer. I play bass. Sometimes I drink too much.
It's a few low end notes.
Yeah.
That'll happen. Comes with the territory. So for my viewers at home that may not have heard of you, tell us a little bit about the band and what kind of band you are.
Well, we're at heart a punk ska band, but we have a bunch of different other influences that I think kind of show up in our music from each of our individual tastes that kind of make its way into the mix. But largely, we're an aggressive band with an edge.
Yeah, and I guess you can probably speak a little bit more to this because you've been in the band for 19 years, and I've only been for 4. But we like to have a lot of fun. We play, like Nathan said, pretty fast and aggressive music. But yeah, I guess that's basically it. The band's been going for 19 years, like I said there, and it's been probably one of the coolest experiences in my life the last 4 years joining with these guys. I remember going to see Sofa King Addicted shows when I was like 19 years old at in the basement of like the gay bar in Kingston, where it was like the only place you were allowed to have shows and stuff like that. Just
not even on the main floor.
Yeah, you weren't even allowed on the main floor.
The community even sent us to the basement.
Yeah, right. And I never thought for a second that I would end up playing in the band years later, but here I am, and I got a new name moniker out of it even.
Yeah, so Danny Addicted, he hit the nail on the head. It's this band's been going since almost the turn of the century, and it's had a revolving door of members, and some people are leaving in breakdowns and other people on good terms, but it's been a hell of a ride, and it's still going. We just released our 4th album at the start of this year, so each one's getting better and better. So that's kind of where we're at now, and we're looking forward to next year, obviously, especially if shit starts opening up again.
Yeah, and musically, I think when you listen to the first couple albums, like back in 2002 and stuff like that, it was much more like on the ska side, whereas now, it's definitely got a lot more more of the punk influence on the newer album, right?
And not just that, but branching into the multi-genre. We're friends with some of the members of the Glorious Sons. I don't know if they're known in your area or not, but they opened up for the Rolling Stones in Paris to put it in perspective. So they're more in the rock realm, but their keyboardist played on our song, The Hockey Anthem, which is a straight down the road rock song, sports anthem, if you will, which again is an oddity for a punk band. But on the side, I work on an arena. Dan played net back in the day.
Nate drives a Zamboni for a living.
Oh my God, it's been a dream. Growing up in the Northeast, obviously we've got the Bruins, and man, they just
boo.
Yeah, that's fine. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. But
I'm impartial.
Honestly, I enjoy watching. I'm not a massive sports fanatic, but I can appreciate the game and all that. I don't really root for anyone these days. It's just not my general focus. But it's always been a dream since I was a kid to drive a Zamboni, because that just looks like a ton of fun.
Right.
Well, we're going to send you a link. The first video this guy was in, we did a video in an arena, and it's so offside that I made sure we did it in the next town over, because I'd get fired if we did it And we did it in the town of Deserano, and their town council saw it after, and they got so furious they demanded we take it down. But we had all the permission, so it's still up to this day. So we'll be sending you that link.
We took it down for a week, be like, yeah, sure, and then we're just gonna fucking put it back up. But if you watch it though too, we do like it's like the most Canadian shit you're ever gonna see because like we're water skiing.
That sounds like honestly, it's like the most Canadian punk rock thing. Is this like straight up?
This is the first time. This is the first time you'll ever see a band get dumped out of the snow bin of a Zamboni. First time.
I remember that too. Like,
man.
so
this guy was afraid.
Well, I wasn't afraid, but I remember. So Nate's got I'm just following along, and Nate's like, I got this idea. Like, we're all gonna get in the front of the Zamboni, and so what the Zamboni does after it leaves the ice, it goes out back, and the front opens up, and it dumps out the snow into like a big snowbank. So Nate's idea is we're gonna get in with that snow, and the thing's gonna go like this. And then we're all going to come out with the snow.
Wild ride.
So we're inside the Zamboni, and I look at it, and I'm like, are you sure this is safe? And he's like, fuck no. Don't touch the sides because you might lose your fucking hand. And next thing you know, we're in the snowbank. Yeah. But
had it gone wrong, you would have been playing slide bass.
Yeah.
Or slap.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Good time.
That sounds like an absolute blast, and you better believe that we're going to share it with everybody on the show because we love music videos around here. I mean, we love tracks, don't get us wrong, but I love music videos, you know? I mean, that's the thing is like people of our generation, a little bit older, we actually grew up in an era where music videos were actually played in their entirety. It's a crazy concept. And then somehow along the line, it snipped down to 30 seconds and then no seconds, and you don't really see.
You might not be aware, but there used to be a television station. It was called MTV. It ran for like 30 years, and they played 12 years of videos, though.
Yeah, son. All of us, if you're watching this, young kids, us grandpapas, you know, the music television actually had music on the TV. And back in the day, it was good. It was good.
Yeah.
You know,
I think,
now, not my cup of tea.
You got to go to the live show to get the good.
Yeah.
Exactly. You got to go to the live shows to get the goods. Or like now, I mean, we're so fortunate with like all the different social media outlets and stuff. And this nevertheless YouTube, and not taking YouTube for granted. There's bands have been able to produce their own independent videos, which obviously just comes with the punk rock and nature with the DIY, but I'm passing this along, DIT, doing it together. We never really do it alone. You know, we have a very do-it-yourself attitude, don't get me wrong, but we do that shit together. So
you hit the nail on the head. We take a lot of notes from Stomp Records in Montreal. They're kind of one of the bigger independent labels in Canada, and that's one of the things that they stressed was that it's a team. Even if it's a band, there's a team behind it making it all happen. And granted, and especially in punk rock, a lot of those team members are also band members, but it doesn't happen without you know everybody working together and all those pistons firing in the engine.
It's true. It's
funny that you mentioned MTV, because in Canada, when we were growing up, we never really had MTV per se, but we had much music.
It was a Canadian knockoff, eh?
No, my buddy had Satellite, and we had much music too. And honestly, the metal on there back in the day, like in the early 2000s when I was in high school, was awesome. Like Much Music was a great station, way better than MTV.
Yeah. Well, in Quebec, they actually had a French version of it too called Musique Plus. And back in, I think it was 2003, Sofa King Addicted was on 123 Punk. And like there's an interview out there that you can go and find on YouTube, and Nate looks like a baby in this. It's hilarious. And it's like first album Sofa King Addicted, and then here's Nate and the original members of Sofa King Addicted standing on a rooftop in downtown Montreal with Reg LaPlanche, who is like their main video DJ, like getting interviewed and stuff like that. And like
only in Quebec, you know, that shit wouldn't happen in Toronto even, you know. Just Quebec's a pretty cool province if you get to go there, and I'm sure the influence from Maine is felt in Quebec as well. So tip of the hat to you guys for that.
Well, Quebec is an awesome city. It's an awesome city. And Montreal is too. I've heard nothing but good things about Montreal. I've been to Quebec, but I have not been to Montreal yet.
Oh no.
Well,
It's pretty cool, man. It's a fun town. I lived there for a while.
like you say, if you were in Quebec City, the difference between Quebec City and Montreal's got more of a ska pulse to it. Quebec City loves their hardcore. If we play Quebec City, we leave a lot of our ska off the set and go with the heavier selections of our catalog, just because you get the feeling they'll eat you alive if you don't. It's a hardcore city, Quebec City.
Yeah, I remember like when I first joined the band, my first road trip was to go all the way to Rimouski, Quebec, which is like from here. It's like
East Coast.
It's like basically driving to Maine to get to Rimouski, Quebec. It's on the far opposite side, like north. You go straight south from Rimouski, I think you end up in PEI and like New Brunswick and stuff like that, right? And so we went and we opened for a band called Reset, who they were from Montreal, but they did a bunch of warp tours and stuff like that. And we piled in the car, and it was on the 30th of December. And this is when like there was a huge fucking snowstorm going through the eastern seaboard at the point. And we go all the way to Rivière-du-Loup, which is where
if
we
you
would
know
turn
Canada,
south.
there's one highway.
Yeah.
And it was shut down.
So we drive all the way to Rivière-du-Loup. So if you were to drive to Maine from like Napanee, you would go to Rivière-du-Loup and you would turn south and go through New Brunswick. Well, we kept going straight, and we went straight into this huge fucking blizzard. It took us 15 hours to drive there. And we showed up, and there was probably like 150 people at the show. We're opening for Reset. And I was like, this is my first like trip with the band. And so there's this guy that is a really good he's powered Bare Bones and Sofa King Dick that book all these Quebec shows through the years, and he's the guy that got us.
But he's crazy. The guy's just like.
But I had never met him before, and so
out party anyone.
Yeah, and the guy and he's awesome. He's the funniest guy you'll ever meet. And he's from Rimouski, and he gets us this show, and I decide that I'm gonna stay when the band leaves, because it's the 30th, and we're going to go to a burlesque show in Montreal for New Year's Eve. Me and this guy I've never met before.
Dan works out the plans with him, and I'm like, you're going across Quebec with Nick on New Year's Eve day. And he's like, yeah, you're in for a trip. And he's
and this was a plan you made when you were drunk, correct?
Yeah, all his plans.
Always beware of vacation plans when drinking.
Well, I thought to myself, I was like, I've never met this guy. I heard all these stories about how awesome he is and how just crazy he is. And I'm like, that puts me in Montreal New Year's Eve at around 9 o'clock at night. We're going to a burlesque show with this maniac. Sign me up. I'm going. This is my first trip with the band. And as soon as we hit Rivière-du-Loup, it was just like we had to, like, the highway was shut down. We had to go. And it was just, in hindsight, it was the best time I think I've had in the band up until the 2nd of January when we started doing more stuff with the band. And it was fucking awesome, man.
That sounds great, especially like the payoff. At least, like 150. I mean, I've played shows for just the bands and like one person. Sure. So like a crowd of 150, that makes for a good night, even in a fucking blizzard.
Oh, yeah.
That goes to show the fortitude of Canadian punk rockers. We're doing it wrong, apparently.
That's almost what made it magical. It's like once you got there and, it was like some kind of movie where everything shut down, but there was just this little nucleus that was just bumping, And,
there for all the right reasons.
Yeah, out in the middle of fucking nowhere in the snow.
Well, I always love a good holiday show, especially like right after Christmas. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I love my family and friends, but we know that time of year brings like tons of unnecessary anxiety. So to be able to go to a show just after and just like shed it off and just have a blast and dance and throw down. And, when I was younger, do a couple front flips off the stage. Now I'm like 40 pounds heavier than what I was a decade ago, so that doesn't fly anymore. Nobody wants a 200-pound kid doing a front flip off the stage on them when they're trying to drink a guitar.
Well,
I don't, and I'm just like, usually I'm like, fuck, you're past the weight limit. I can't do this shit anymore.
Well, and it's cool too, because when you think about like what it is to be involved in like different communities and stuff, so like we're talking about like a 15-hour drive away. but the time of the year, it's like, yeah, it's all about family and everything. But when you think about it, punk rock is kind of a family as well.
Oh, absolutely.
So going to shows over the holidays have always kind of been like an extension of my own family, because like these are the people that I feel that way towards. Even if I've never met you before, if you fall down in the mosh pit, I'm gonna pick you up, because like there's always that type of, or should always be that type of respect when you go to a show. You know what I mean? So to spend part of your holidays something, it's a little bit different, a little bit more special, because it's an extension of like what you do all year, the same way that like your own personal family is. And like you said, sometimes you need that, and the holidays are different for different people too, right? So
absolutely.
Not
Absolutely.
everybody has like a huge family kind of.
For some people, those shows might be their holiday connection.
Exactly. They might be either not have a family or be hundreds or thousands or entire country away from where they grew up. So that connectivity with one another, I mean, that's everything.
Yeah, sure. And I think we're all kind of missing that these days with there being no shows, but hopefully they come back.
That's what makes this kind of stuff so important, is although the shows have been curbed, the musical community is still thriving in the respect that, we've got this kind of thing happening where we can still be in Maine without crossing a border.
And that's where I saw, like, it took me, until like May of the quarantine to figure it out, and I'm just like, there's got to be something that I could fucking do. Like, I've used to, book and promote and play in my own bands and stuff like that. I'm like, there's got to be something. And then I'm like, wait a minute. Let's put some of this journalism film degree to use and start just like interviewing bands and get like all these underground unsigned bands where, from all around the world that are doing the same thing. They're stagnant, going, what the fuck? We just put out an album. We put all this work into this tour plan and we can't do it. How do we get ourselves out there? And it just starts with just, getting one band at a time. And I've been humbled and blessed by like all the amazing artists that I get to hang out with, all within my front room, like.
Sure.
I sit here, I make my music right here. This is the exact angle when I'm getting pissed off playing computer games. This is where, my band used to practice. I get literally my stacks are right over here next to me and stuff like that. Like, I just got it dwindled down, but I keep the cat tree in because who doesn't love cats?
I am such a huge cat person, man. Like,
you just got this guy started on something.
Oh man, we could talk for fucking hours on cats. I love cats.
Hey, I love. We had a dog as well, not with us.
Me too.
Yeah, it's interesting too.
It's part of life. It's hard, but
yeah,
two cats. They usually like to drop in. We've got a Toki war cat named after the guitarist from Def Clock.
Nice. I'm such a fan of that. Nathan Explosion. Yeah.
I think the thing with the lobsters was the best thing. Like, let me get this straight. I put it in this green dies and I eat it. It's fucking metal.
Oh man. So at least spirits are staying up there, which is good. We gotta keep a positive attitude through this, and there's obviously what's happening in Canada. It's very different than the way that Americans are handling the situation here. I'm so fortunate. I'm glad I live in the middle of the woods here in Maine, and honestly, my heart goes out to the folks in Florida and New York and even Massachusetts is one of the worst hits area as well. Like, my heart goes out to them because they're just dealing with like idiocracy all around them.
But even in Canada though, we're so in step with what's happening in the States. My parents winter in Arizona, so they're obviously not going to be able to make it this year, but we couldn't be more aware of what's happening in next door to us versus watching from afar in Europe. So our hearts definitely go out, like you say, to all of the hot spots that are dealing with these kind of things. And
and we're in an area that like is probably more connected with the U.S. than say the bigger cities like Toronto and Montreal, because like you know, like we're Napanee based as a band. We're currently in Kingston, which is like a 15-20 minute drive down the road.
Yeah, we're right near the border to the
But we're
Ivy
like
League Bridge. Yeah, so
but like in all honesty, like we are about a 20-minute boat ride from Clayton, New York.
actually,
You
there's
know what I mean? Like I could take
You're closer to the United States than I am to Canada.
there's a lesser known border crossing from Kingston. You can take a ferry to Wolf Island, which is Canada. But if you drive around to the other side of that, you can take a very small ferry from Wolf Island to Cape Vincent, New York.
Yeah.
It's a very, very like a little toll booth crossing. I hope I'm not giving anything away for any.
But you can throw all the gear
rubber.
on there, and then it's just a hop, skip, and a jump to get to Portland to come play a show for us. So
Yeah,
I like where your head's at. Definitely.
there's
always
a
be,
golf
you
course.
just drop down. You can hit Albany, then go down to like the Bronx, hit Philly, jump up to Boston, and then come right up to Portland.
So you
just
want
go
to do
around
some
circle
tour
and then come back
managing?
to little Canada here in the Northeast.
Yeah, from the south end of Wolf Island, you can see Clayton, New York.
I think I could throw a baseball across that water channel that the ferry drives. So
Yeah.
Again, for hopefully no ill-intended people.
You're trying to illegally cross the border in Canada. Don't do what we just said. Don't listen to any of that information. It's incredibly not helpful.
I'm sure it's never happened in the Thousand Islands ever before.
Ever.
No.
I never did it in high school either.
It never happens in the TR regions in the northwest parts of Maine, There's just nothing but a bunch of logging trails up there. Honestly, you just really want to just keep going northwest and you'll be fine. You'll get into Canada. It's getting out is the hard part. Getting in is the easy part. I actually had a buddy that accidentally, while on work, drove into Canada accidentally, and it's like, oh, fuck. It's like, good thing I don't have any weed on me right now. It's the getting back in with it,
Yeah,
and not being a Canadian citizen. Like, you're Canadian? You can have weed. But if you're an American and you have weed, you're in deep fucking trouble. Oh,
yeah,
man.
they just want to confiscate your weed so they can smoke it themselves.
And just compare it, Garbage state swag.
No, nonsense, man. Any weed's good weed in some cases. So.
It's true. And honestly, for the longest time before things were the way they were, the stuff that was come from Canada, Maine greatly appreciaes. So on behalf of all the state of Maine, and you can represent all of Canada in this moment, we thank you. Thank you for the years of all the black market. Oh, Twitch is going to love this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think we're going to be flagged too, don't worry.
No, if we're in legal states, it's totally fine. I could smoke right now if I wanted to.
Oh, yeah.
So, but.
Very nice.
Hey, man, I was born on fucking Vancouver Island. And you know what they say about that old BC bud.
The BC weed, yeah.
Oh, and that's the thing. Growing up, like people like talking about like BC bud and stuff like that. That was like early 2000s. Like, oh, you gotta get some British Columbian. You gotta get some BC weed, dude. It's the best. You gotta wait till the next time that it comes in. Like that was all the talk for me in high school with people. So, anyways, we can talk about the inner green relations between Maine and Canada, which is technically illegal, but that's okay. This part will stay on YouTube.
Yeah, it's all speculative anyway. It's all speculative.
It's all speculative. You can't prove nothing. I was never there. Never there.
Just stuff we heard. I mean, hearsay at that point.
Exactly. It's all just hearsay. You can't pin nothing on me.
Yeah.
But so jumping back into it, you've been doing this for 19 years now. Which is obviously that's insane, like in the most amazing way. Most bands in my case will last a couple of years and break up, and then a couple members will move forward, change the name, do a couple different things, and that's kind of just the way that it goes. But to maintain for 19 years is impressive. I'm always curious, like, what are some of your favorite moments over that time?
Well, I'll let you go because I've only been in it for 4 years, so I can't really take too much credit. But I played in a couple other bands that kind of paralleled, which kind of made me joining like that much cooler. I'd like to think so myself anyway.
Indeed, and on that note, and I've kind of stressed this to Dan and then our newest member Tony on drums, that even though I might have been here for 19 years, life's kind of building on progressions. So because of that, your last steps, your last progressions are typically going to be your higher moments. And like Dan said, in January, we were recording at the Tragically Hip studio, and that was the first time we had done that. We got that album out in March, The Hard Carnival. So that's pretty big highlight for me as much as it is for them, you know. Like
absolutely.
It just might have taken a little longer for me to get there, you know, versus some of the other members. But for the most part, I think as soon as a member gets involved, you're sharing those same highlights, and you're always focusing on the future anyway, you know, from one show to the next or one album to the next. So your highlights are always going to be what's to come, I think.
Yeah, I mean, on the other hand, though, too, like for me, there's a couple of like personal milestones that I never would have been able to achieve had I not really like, well, maybe with a different band, but with So Being Addicted specifically. Like I remember going to play the Horseshoe Tavern with like an old band when I was like 20 years old and getting there and playing to just bartender. And with Sofa King Addicted, we opened for the Planet Smashers and Big D and the Kids Table at the Horseshoe Tavern. And I remember it's just that moment that just sticks out to me, because we were under the impression we took a bus full of 40 people that started in Kingston and ended up in Toronto, which is about a 2.5 hour drive. So 3.5 hour bus trip.
I've got to interject here. We were doing some raffles because we had no bad ideas in Indianapolis. They kind of outfit us with hats and whatnot. So for that show, we were doing a big bus trip. They sent us hats that we could raffle off and some to toss from the stage.
Wear mine right now.
Yeah, he's got his on now. So we're Dan and I are calling out the numbers because we had tickets and shit to draw on the bus, and we're going back with the lights so people can check their ticket.
Everybody's ticket for the bus was supposed to get them into the show, and we get there, and the lady at the door, and I mean, like, if you've been to the Horseshoe Tavern, you know the people that do the door there, maybe not the most friendly.
They know their job,
but they're doing
and they're in Toronto,
So I ended up standing next to the door lady, and there's two bars. There's a long bar, and the place is lined up out front door and down Queen Street in downtown Toronto to get into the show that we're playing. And I remember the lady just being like, I had to stand there and check off all the names on our list to let everybody who's on the bus. And I don't know everybody who's on the fucking bus either. I'm just like, yeah, sure. But I remember the lady being like, all right, you know, like, you don't have to stand here. And I looked at her and I was like, lady, I fucking played this place as a fucking bartender. I don't mind standing here one fucking bit. I'll shake everybody's fucking hand if they come to this fucking door. And so, I mean, like, that moment for me will always stick out as like one of the coolest things that I've ever experienced in ska, because like you're just looking at this lineup, all your friends are having a great time. And I think
if you're from the US, the Horseshoe Tavern in Toronto is kind of like what CBGB's was in New York. That's the comparison.
Yeah. And like, I don't know, it's just like one of those.
Incidentally, a quarter of our bus was kicked out of that show.
That's what I was going to say.
How am I not surprised?
After the show, I remember going outside of downtown Toronto and seeing like 15 people on the bus just hanging out. I thought they were smoking. I was like, what are you guys up to? They're like, we all got kicked out. Like, sucks to be you. I'm fucking going back in and going to do the fucking Big D and the Kids Table now.
Which are always a ton of fun live. And I'm like, I couldn't imagine playing with them. That must have been great.
We've had a couple shows with them now, and you know, each one's better than the last. And I think for the highlights, a lot of it is some of the bands that you get to open for. Like we opened for Buck Cherry in Kingston, and that was one that was lined up again down the road, and it was
Buck Cherry was cool because I think like that was in our where I grew up. It's not really my hometown, but in Kingston, which is right next to Napanee, like we said. But the venue that it was at is like a 550 person venue, and it was sold out.
Yeah, and
so like
it's a hard one to get into. So
yeah, and like it's one thing to play the venue, but when you're playing a
sold
550
out venue of that capacity.
And like, and Kinks is a pretty small place, right? So there's so many of my friends that were there, even almost by accident. I knew a ton of friends that were going, but the amount of people that I ran into at that show that like I've known for 15 years, you know, like some of them didn't even know I played in a band. Like I remember meeting one girl that I used to be her boss. And she was like, I didn't know you played in a band. That was fucking awesome. And I was like, I didn't know you go to shows. It's pretty cool.
And that's awesome. Like those, you know, those milestone moments, you know, they're awesome. And they, especially when you can do something that you just never thought possible, and then you achieve it. And it's a testament. It doesn't matter where you are in the world and where you are as a band. Like, put yourself out there, apply yourself, and you will be surprised with the results that end up happening down the road. You know, you get to play with people that you really look up to, or like bigger bands that you never expected to be able to play with, you know, and stuff like that. And it's, you know, I try to say all the time, it's like just your biggest limiter is you. You're your biggest hurdle in order to overcome, you know. And like I said, you apply yourself, you put yourself out there, and then it kind of, you know, just kind of falls into place sometimes.
Yeah, and it's easy to take criticism the wrong way as well, right? I personally have always viewed criticism as a motivator, like an obstacle to overcome as well. Not only of myself and me personally, but, you know, like we live, you know, in a society where, you know, some people say shitty things about your band every once in a while, but you know, it's your choice how you're going to take that. I remember, like, when I was 22, I played a venue, and somebody hated my band so much that they paid cover to come in and smear human shit all over the walls in the bathroom, took pictures of it, and posted it on the internet, and like, in a forum saying that my band did that, and that just to try to like give us a bad image. And that was the day that I decided that I'm fucking not going to take this shit. You know what I mean? Like that motivated me
literally and figurative,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Pardon the fun, but that was more of a motivator to go out and just show that fucking person that it doesn't matter what you do. Like, you're not gonna stop me. Like, I'm gonna do this because I love it. And now that I'm older, I appreciate the people that support me so much more, having gone through that kind of shit and that.
Well, I think there's constructive criticism, and then there's literally giving somebody shit in the actual sense of it. Holy
right?
fuck.
But like you say, in the start of it all, before you even get out to the show, it's often you yourself that's the biggest inhibitor. And I think the words of Bob Marley are the best words to sum that up, when he said, if you don't start somewhere, you won't get nowhere. So, you know, every journey starts with that single footstep, and be it a band just trying to get together or trying to get that first show and then that first album. It's all it is just one single footstep each time. And after that milestone, you almost have to treat it like that fresh journey again onto the next, and try to put yourself in a position to win, to keep making it to that next goal.
Yeah, it turns into a momentum at some point, right? Where one thing just builds off the other, and then there's like that moment where you look and you just kind of take yourself back for a second. You're like, wow, like all those small steps turned into something that it's not a staircase anymore.
It's easy to overlook it too, but when you start to get comparatives, when you come around that cycle again, a good example of that is the Hard Carnival album versus our album before that, Life in the Trench. Both great albums, but this album now is getting played globally. Like, we're getting plays from Australia. I think it's getting reviewed in Romania, and as well it was in Italy. And Life in the Trench just didn't have that reach. So, you know, it's easy to be in this moment and kind of lose sight of that. So an important factor in those initial steps is to always kind of keep in mind where that first step was behind you.
Absolutely. And just especially when you have the longevity as you know, of 19 years, or even being in it for 4 years, it doesn't change, you know, the experience for 5 or 1, especially when you just look at where you've come in those small steps forward, you know. And that's all it is. You just have to wake up, be present and just willingly be a participant in it and be like, yeah, I'm going to do this. We're going to keep doing this. We're going to keep pushing for this and trying, and that's the thing is I am so fortunate that I've had tons of people give me shit over the years, and I've had plenty of negative comments, but I have some many amazing people in my life to be like, sit down and be like, hey, here's some actual constructive criticism, and I'm coming from an absolute place of love on X, Y, and Z of what I think this could actually be a benefit to you. And I'm like, oh shit, and then I learned something,
Sure.
which is the best part.
It's really interesting for me too to, having only been in the band for 4 years now, but because the band has been around for 19 years, and just being kind of privy to some people's like recollection of the band and seeing that, it's really neat. Like there was a message sent to me, like, maybe about 3 months ago, where somebody had was in the airport in Yellowknife, which is like way almost, it's basically
kind of like Alaska.
Yeah, it's basically like Alaska, and like in the airport seeing a Sofa King Addicted sticker on the ashtray and being like, man, this is so cool. Like you actually got like your sticker is on an ashtray in the airport in Yellowknife, and I'm like, that probably doesn't really have a whole lot to do with me, because it's, you know what I mean? How long it's been there, I have no fucking idea. So King Addicted has never played in Yellowknife before, but just
to know it's there is incredibly satisfying.
And to like take a picture of it and send it and being like, that's really fucking cool when shit like that happens. You know what I mean? And there's other moments like that where, like people will have a recollection of being like, we'll get on a bill somewhere and they'll be like, Sofa King Addicted, is that the same Sofa King Addicted that I saw like when I was in high school?
Yep.
And you're like, yeah, same, kind of, yeah, pretty much, yeah, same man.
That's awesome. And that's the thing. I keep my stickers for myself small, like call them, slappers. Call them slappers because honestly, I'll give them out to people, and I want you to go throw them everywhere. And like send me photos of them and show me how far they get. I had a similar experience seeing photos of my logo in San Francisco on the complete other side of the country, and I'm like,
right.
And I was like in Oakland, and I was like, this is insane. And it's those moments. It's like, it's not like a big like, oh, we played it, but to me that's a milestone in itself, because it's just somebody that cared enough. I mean, like, you know what, this is a good fucking spot for that sticker.
Yeah.
It's actually those milestones, I think, that stick out for a musician more than what the average person would think. They would assume it's going to be, oh, this really good show, or when this exciting thing happened. But more often than not, it's one of those heartfelt moments between an individual where someone sent you that picture and you just know that it's there. Just that knowledge, I think, is the milestone.
It's like that last show with Planet Smashers and Big D and the Kids Table. The next day, I think I went to bed at noon, right after the show, and the bus got back and everything, and some partying happened and all that. But like seeing like my friends post that went on that show, like they posted more pictures of the bruises that they had on their arms and legs than they did of us actually playing. And I was like, you know what? I fucking like that. That's fucking cool. That's what it's all about, man.
That is in itself its own little badge, especially where it's somebody posting it themselves and being proud of them. It's different if it was somebody getting the shit kicked out of them, an entirely different situation. But that is a badge of honor. You're like, look at having another show last night. I had so much fucking fun. I'm a fucking wreck. And a blast.
I might have got kicked out, but here's why.
You're making me miss live shows really bad.
Well, that's good.
Well, hopefully they come back soon. I think we're all kind of jonesing for them.
Getting a little antsy.
Oh, yeah.
I started moshing of my cats the other day, and they didn't fucking appreciate it.
No, they don't. I've done that too.
Somebody asked me if we were going to do like one of the drive-in show kind of things there, and I was like, only if it's a fucking Demolition Derby, man, because that'd be pretty cool. But no, I don't think you're coming to a Sofa King Addicted show to sit in your car. Unless
Demolition
you're doing bongs in it.
Exactly the right way. I've heard of some social distant events or some heavier bands. I'm like, there's no way. There's no way people are not going to get out of their cars and just like go and have fun, or others just go and get ignorant because that's what some people do.
And reversely, it's not quite the same experience when you remove those connections too. And like an example of that is Saturday Night Live when they've been doing it without an audience. Some stuff's working, but some of it you're like, wow, that needs the energy of the audience feeding back, like the Weekend Update especially, you know. You need that back and forth energy. It's so integral for a show.
Even more strange is the WWE. Wrestling with no audience is like the strangest performance art you've ever seen. Like when there's no crowd roaring, and that's the thing. Like I'm not really big into wrestling, but someone's like, "You've got to see this because this is so fucking weird." So I put on like Raw on Hulu, and I was like, "This is." Like, and I've seen some performance art, and this was just so fucking weird. The drama in between and this absolute silence, you know? I guess on Monday, I guess a few weeks ago, because this is in the future, the Denver Broncos had all South Park cutouts for their crowd.
I saw that.
I was like, that
was cool. Well, also the Blue Jays, like Toronto, like their home opener, but they have to play in Buffalo. And so they had the cardboard cutouts at their home opener, and right behind was Geddy Lee from Rush.
yeah.
And there was somebody, I can't remember who the woman was that was sitting next to him, but she was a prominent figure, so I apologize for forgetting who it was. But somebody just like made a little screen capture. It was Geddy Lee sitting behind the fucking. They were like, see, at least like have some fun with it. Right? Like that's pretty cool.
You gotta make lemonade sometimes.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. You know, and that's good seeing, you know, that kind of positivity and a little bit of humor, you know, go a long way. Or even putting, you know, somebody that's close to a local hometown hero there and stuff like that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Geddy Lee. Now, before we part ways, oh man. Now I just think of like every bassist I know just like slaughtering Rush. And then there's a couple ones that actually just like fucking slaughter it and they slay it in the most beautiful way, you know.
Yeah. I've
heard a lot of Rush done bad in my life, so if I hear another shitty version of Bytor and the Snow Dog, I'm gonna kill myself. I don't mean that, but
I don't think I've ever actually even attempted to once learn a Rush song. Like I'm trying to think of it. No, I've never learned any.
Yeah.
I respect the band, but I think the guy's voice was kind of an obstacle for me to really get into Rush.
They're not my prog of choice. I've just happened to hear a lot in my lifetime as the people I hang out with. Heard a lot, and I said a lot of covers. And if you're watching this and we hung out and you were playing tons of Rush on bass, then maybe you should have picked a different song every once in a while. Maybe I'm secretly salty about it. Maybe you could have, I don't know, played something else that was bass led.
That's very
Primus.
Start breaking out the Primus or something.
Yeah. That's very SLC punk of you, by the way.
They go hand in hand. They really do.
What's this?
You know? I'm more of a King Crimson guy myself, but that's besides the point.
I'm 20th century schizoid man.
I'm a Primus guy. I think seeing Claypool, Primus, I think it was 2000.
Fancy Band and Frog Brigade, like and I like it for what it is. But it's definitely, you know exactly what you're going to get with Les Claypool, you know? And I think he's definitely like at a, you know, no ill because he's an amazing musician, incredibly talented, but I think he's kind of plateaued unless he like does like, I don't know, because he's done like bluegrass and the alt rock and metal and stuff like that. Like, I don't know now really into like that psychedelic with him and like the, with John Lennon's kid there.
Julian?
The Lennon Claypool something experience. He's got so many bands. It's hard to keep track of.
Yeah, he's got a few. For me, like when I grew up, like and started playing bass, the thing that was great about Claypool is that when you listen to the albums, like a lot of the stuff is actually fairly simple, outside of like his fills and stuff. And I always wanted to see Claypool live because I know, and I always had that feeling that if you see him live, it's not gonna be that simple. There's gonna be that moment where he's just gonna blow your fucking mind. And so I saw him in 2015 in Toronto at the Danforth, And I remember the encore, Tommy the Cat. There's like a little bass solo in the middle of Tommy the Cat, and the guitar player just took his guitar off, walked off the stage, and it was just like, it was a 10-minute bass solo, and I was like, that's why I wanted to see fucking Primus, because I know like he's just gonna open it up.
And you're right about those moments, you know. And then the show and everything is just, I don't know what else he could do next. He's had so many different, like he's hit so many different. I don't know what, like,
he might
everything that he puts out. I'm like, well, that makes sense for him, you know. So I expect almost the unexpected with him, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But I think what gives him the advantage over everybody else is his fucking reach. He has like the world's biggest hands.
I know,
like that guy can cover like 7-8 frets on a bass on like a 6-7-8 string, and it's these giant fingers, and I'm just like, how? I can barely cover like a 7 string, you know, and I can with like hit like 6 frets to get like a good triad going, but he's over here just. I think he's just got the range and the skill set, obviously, but. I think that's what makes him different than other musicians. He's got the biggest fucking hands.
Yeah. I have a 5-string, and I broke the 5th one, and I was just like, whatever. I don't really fucking use it. I'm in a punk band.
Works. And exactly, I mean, I've never seen a punk band with a bass with missing a string.
Yeah. We're slowly turning into the presidents of the United States of America.
I was going to bring
it up. Which isn't a bad thing. Let me tell you, Pot USA Live is fucking phenomenal.
Oh, yeah. Fuck, less is more, man.
Less is more. You know, and like, or Soulfly, Max Cavalera, I think he's got like -2 strings on his guitar.
Yeah, I remember reading an article in Guitar World when I was in high school of Max Cavalera being like, you can give me a fucking milk box and elastics and a distortion pedal, and I'll make it fucking sound cool. And I was like, I fucking like Sepultura, man.
Oh, yeah.
That guy's fucking cool. There's a guy who's got to figure it out.
Yeah, the Cavalera brothers are just fucking cool. Like Cavalera Conspiracy and obviously Soulfly. Like, and they're one of those metal bands, new metal bands that I thought always stood out because they incorporated so much of just like their culture and world sound into it, and just bringing in that Spanish influence to it, which just other bands weren't doing. And I was just completely blown away by that. And then nevertheless, even like Nail Bomb before that. Oh man.
Yeah. Well, and even like when they were set to release Roots, like the Roots album, they basically like gave the middle finger to their own record label to be like, we're not fucking recording this in New York City. We're going to do it in Brazil where we're from. And then you have this like really like cultural fucking metal album, which is probably one of my favorite records of the 90s. It was so good.
Oh,
but the reason they got that out of that is
snare tone, you know, it literally sounds like steel on concrete. It's so primitive and amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that album. Oh, going old school. I have not thought about Roots in a long time. I'm probably gonna make some dinner after this, and I'm gonna throw that on, and I'm just gonna get like my 1996 headband on. So before we part ways, we've mentioned it a couple times. The new album. Tell us a little bit about the Hard Carnival.
It's kind of like the name implies. It's a bit of a circus. Now, myself, I'm a pretty big Doors fan. Their 4th album is The Soft Parade. So as a tip of the hat to the Doors, we did the Hard Carnival.
I like that. That's clever.
Updated
That's homage. Well done.
So anyway,
that's their 4th studio album as well, the Doors.
Yeah, so 4 and 4. Figured we give a tip of the hat. So I get in the studio, and you know, a little known Doors fact is the song Strange Days. It's played on a Moog synthesizer. So I get in there, I start unloading my gear, and Danny hadn't made it to the studio yet at the Hip House. And I text him, I'm like, there's a fucking Moog here. So I don't even know how to play it, and it's on the song Loose Lips. So the engineer there, Niles, he's just a savant. He's a friggin' wizard. I'm sitting there trying to like figure out how to play it, and someone else is tracking on that song. So I'm listening to the speakers, and I have these headphones on, and he comes over and he plugs me in. So I start hearing it coming through the studio speakers. I'm like, okay, you know, I can hear better. I'm just fucking around, and So whoever was tracking, I don't know if it was you or Tony or someone.
It wasn't me because I remember.
So the tracking gets done,
I
and
wasn't there.
Niles starts playing it back, and here he was recording me fucking around, and he put it all in the song, and it sounds like it's meant to be there. And so another tip of the hat to the Doors there as well. There's a lot of slide guitar in this album. Now, Robbie Krieger from the Doors, when he first joined, he started playing slide, and for the first 6 months, the idea was that they didn't want him playing anything but slide guitar. They got out of that before their first album, but you can still hear a lot of slide influence in the Doors as well. I play an SG, which I bought back in the day because that was the one that Robbie Krieger played. So a lot of the, you might not realize it, but a lot of that album has such influences in it, and it's not just limited to, say, the Doors. There's other things as you delve in there and you find out in members' individual taste, you're like, I think that's a nod to this song or to this band. So like, we've tried to put a lot of that into it, and I think that really shows in the final product, all that little bit of extra work, that little bit of extra consideration. So this album by far is the pinnacle for Sofa King Addicted to date.
It's neat too because like I found out like I find out Nathan's influences after the fact a lot of the time. So the opening track, like the title track, the Hard Carnival, there's the megaphone in it and everything. And we were talking to somebody, like I think it came up on a Facebook post, but that was actually influenced by Portrait of an American Family, like the first Marilyn Manson album, which is like one of like an album that I really really love. Like
the song Dope Hat as a
still do, still do.
Yeah. Still do, right?
Yeah.
But I had no idea that Nathan even listened to Marilyn Manson before. I thought it was more of a System of a Down thing. I'm more of a metalhead than I let on at times, right? But like just this being like, wait a minute, what? You were influenced by Marilyn Manson? We could have been talking about this fucking 3 years ago, but again, put it on in the fucking band.
You play the song Hard Carnival and then play the song Dope Hat and listen to the megaphone guy in the background. You'll see exactly where that influence came from.
I'm gonna take note of that.
Right on.
I'm totally gonna listen to them back to back here, and I'm gonna be like, all right, I can see the influence. That's awesome.
Nice.
We're definitely excited to be able to check it out, and obviously you're incredibly excited about the album, which is awesome. Even after all these years, you're feeling like you're finding your voice like more than ever now, which is fantastic. You never know where a journey is going to take you if you're going to be 3 years into a project or 19 years into a project. So definitely really excited to be able to share it with everybody. Awesome. So I want to thank you for hanging out tonight. It's been awesome getting to know you guys. I feel like we could get into a lot of trouble together. And so we definitely got to, when things are capable, we should definitely, I really,
hey man, it's only a 20-minute boat ride.
I've been wanting, I've filmed bands for years, so I'd always travel for it. So now knowing that like when things open up, I'll be able to take the MixTape on the road, that really excites me. And going to Canada is definitely on one of my stops. Hopefully we can do it next year because the old MixTape road show would be a ton of fun.
Oh yeah,
man, line it up because we'll run you right through Quebec into Ontario. It'll be a wild ride. We'll get Nick in on it. Incidentally, Nick's story, about New Year's Eve. Following New Year's, he calls me. He's like, "You're coming to Montreal." He set me up seeing NoFX live in Montreal. So like, what a fucking guy, eh? So
that straight up, absolutely.
Yeah. So we'll get you some Nick stories too when you make it up here.
Oh, I want my own Nick story. Let it be going to Burlesque. And if Nick wants to take me to fucking NoFX in Canada, I'm totally fine with that.
You guys are a fucking legend. He's a legend.
Oh man. So
thanks a lot for having us, man.
Thank you so much.
Cool hanging out.
Thanks for hanging out. You guys are fucking great. I'm excited to be able to share some tunes and some videos with everybody tonight. Before we part ways, where can everybody find your music online?
Well, so we have 2 different things on Facebook. So we obviously have our page, which is pretty standard that you can follow, and that one's a little bit more official. But we also have a group called Sofa King Addicted / Barebones Records, and if you get into that group, we reveal a little bit more the behind the scenes stuff, and probably like some like some cool deals, and reveal some secrets in there if you want to know a little bit more. And we have Instagram. We also just released our Hard Carnival on vinyl, and re-released Life in the Trench, the album before that, on vinyl as well.
Nice.
And we ship those out ourselves. They often show up in pizza boxes lined with an old T-shirt. But yeah, no, we got a couple vinyls, and more on the way.
Bare Bones Records, if you're wondering, is kind of the umbrella for Sofa King Addicted and all our associated acts. We've got a Christmas band called the Frostbite Faction, what is like Christmas hardcore, kind of like Trans-Siberia Orchestra, but maybe more punk rock instead of metal. Yeah, oh yeah. And we're actually re-releasing an album on vinyl this Christmas.
Oh man. So that's awesome. With definitely send me an invite to the group, because I like secrets. I like knowing more about bands.
We view everything kind of like more as like a family, and that's a place where like our closer friends and supporters can kind of be a little more a part of like what the band is, because like we'd be fucking nothing without that support, right? So this is kind of us just inviting people to be a little bit more part of what we do.
And we are transparent. We're not one of those bands that tries to make it look like we're doing something. When we fuck up, we advertise it.
Yeah.
You're going to know all about it.
The best way is just to own it. Own them mistakes.
Fucking right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. My guests tonight have been Master Nate and Danny Addicted of Sofa King Addicted.
Nice.
Coming out of Napanee, Ontario. Thanks for hanging out tonight, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks a lot, man.